This is the story of Hatshepsut, the woman who ruled ancient Egypt as king, wore the false beard of a god, and then seemed to vanish from her own history. Not through death alone, but through erasure. Her images were smashed, her name carved out, her monuments claimed by others. Yet the reasons for this campaign remain uncertain, tangled in ambition, revenge, and fear. She was born into the powerful 18th Dynasty, daughter of Thutmose III, raised inside a palace where the Nile's rhythm meant power and divine order. Egypt at the time was strong, wealthy, and confident. No one expected that a royal daughter would one day step beyond tradition and take the throne as king in her own right. When her father died, the crown passed to her half-brother and husband, Thutmose II. His reign was brief and fragile. He left behind a young son, Thutmose III, born to a secondary wife. The child was too young to rule. Hatshepsut stepped forward as regent, guardian of the boy and protector of the throne. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Regents had ruled before. Queens had guided kingdoms for young heirs. But within a few years, something shifted. In inscriptions and reliefs, Hatshepsut's titles began to change. She was no longer simply great royal wife or God's wife of a moon. She was declared king of Upper and Lower Egypt. Images of her show a transformation unfolding. At first she appears in traditional female dress, then gradually in male regalia. Finally she stands carved in stone with the false beard, the kilt, the broad chest of a king. The shift was deliberate and public. It was not hidden. It was announced as destiny. Her claim rested on divine birth. Temple walls proclaimed that the god Amun himself had visited her mother and fathered her. The story was etched in stone, repeated in sacred spaces, presented as truth. Egypt was told that Hatshepsut did not seize power. She fulfilled a divine plan. For over 20 years she ruled, and Egypt prospered. Trade flourished. Temples rose. Expeditions sailed south to the mysterious land of Punt, returning with incense trees, gold, and exotic animals. The reliefs at her mortuary temple tell the tale in vivid detail, proud and triumphant. That temple still stands, rising in terraces against the cliffs at Deir el-Bahari. Its symmetry is serene, almost defiant. It proclaims stability and divine favor. Nothing in its grand colonnade suggests weakness or fear. Nothing hints that her memory would later be attacked. Yet the young Thutmose III was growing older. He trained as a warrior. He learned the arts of command. Official inscriptions continued to list him as co-ruler, but Hatshepsut's presence dominated the monuments. Her name came first. Her image towered above his. Some believe she sidelined him completely. Others argue he commanded armies even during her reign. Records speak of campaigns, but the details are uneven. It is difficult to tell whether he was a figurehead or a partner. The silence between their names leaves room for suspicion. When Hatshepsut died, the throne passed fully to Thutmose III. He would become one of Egypt's greatest military kings, expanding its empire far beyond previous borders. 4 years after her death, nothing dramatic happened to her monuments. Her statues remained. Her inscriptions endured. Then, decades later, the chisels began their work. Her images were defaced, faces smashed, cartouches hacked from stone. In some places, her figure was replaced by that of her father or Thutmose III. In others, the stone was left blank, as if the memory itself had been scraped away. The campaign was systematic. It was not immediate vengeance. It came long after she was gone. That delay deepens the mystery. If Thutmose III had resented her, why wait so long? If he wished to punish her memory, why rule peacefully beside her monuments for years before striking? Some suggest political necessity. A female king might unsettle the line of succession. Future heirs could point to her precedent and challenge the stability of male rule. By erasing her, the dynasty restored the image of uninterrupted male authority. But the destruction was selective. Her name was removed from king lists, yet some records survived untouched in hidden corners. Statues were buried rather than smashed in certain places. It is as if the erasure was careful, measured, not a blind rage. At Deir el-Bahari, entire relief panels were altered. Figures once clearly hers were reshaped into male forms. The transformation was awkward. The stone remembers its first carving. Traces of her body remain beneath the recut surface, visible to those who look closely. Why invest such effort? Why rewrite stone decades after the fact? The energy required suggests more than quiet correction. It suggests anxiety, perhaps fear of something her reign represented. There are whispers that she overstepped sacred boundaries, that she blurred lines between gender and kingship in ways that unsettled priests and nobles. Yet during her life, she was praised openly. Temples honored her. Officials served her loyally. The expedition to Punt stands as one of her proudest achievements. Reliefs show foreign rulers welcoming Egyptian envoys. Incense trees are pruned and transported home. The images are detailed and confident. They do not feel like propaganda from a weak ruler clinging to power. Her building projects rivaled those of any king before her. Obelisks rose high in Karnak. Inscriptions celebrated her devotion to Amun. She spoke of stability, order, prosperity. Nothing in the official record hints at rebellion or chaos during her reign. And yet, her name was carved out. Some argue that Thutmose III sought to strengthen his son's claim by removing a complicated chapter in the dynasty. Others imagine a quieter motive, a long memory of being overshadowed, of waiting in the shadow of a woman who ruled as king. The problem is the lack of direct accusation. No surviving text openly condemns her. No decree explains the erasure. The silence is deliberate. It is as if the act itself was meant to erase not only her name but the reasons behind its removal. Centuries later, her tomb was found nearly empty. Her mummy was uncertain for generations, hidden among other royal remains. Even in death, her identity slipped through fingers. Only modern investigation suggested which body might be hers. Her temple endured storms, earthquakes, invasions. The desert preserved what her successors tried to destroy. Broken statues were found buried in pits, carefully placed rather than scattered. Someone chose to hide them instead of reducing them to dust. Was this mercy? Was it fear of divine retribution? Or was it simple practicality, recycling stone while preserving order? Her reign contradicts expectations. A woman ruling as king in one of history's most rigid hierarchies, accepted for 2 decades, then partially erased. The pattern does not settle into a simple story of ambition or revenge. If she had been a disaster, her monuments would not speak of prosperity. If she had been universally loved, her name would not have been chiseled away. She exists between triumph and deletion, both celebrated and denied. Even the official king lists that followed skip her name, leaping from her father to Thutmose III as if she never stood between them. The gap is intentional. It is an engineered memory. Yet the stone disagrees. Beneath the altered cartouches, her titles remain faintly visible. Beneath the recut figures, her posture persists. The cliffs at Deir el-Bahari still echo with her ambition. Was she erased to protect the throne, to calm future succession, or to settle a quiet resentment that lingered for decades? Was the delay a sign of patience or of calculation? The truth remains carved in fragments, scattered across temples and desert sands. Her reign was real. Her monuments were real. The attempt to remove her was real. But the reason behind it has never been spoken aloud in surviving words. Hatshepsut ruled as king, prospered as king, built as king, and then was denied the title in death. The chisels that struck her image did not explain themselves. And so her story lingers in the silent spaces where her name once stood, asking a question that the stone still refuses to answer.